Welcome back. Trust that you've enjoyed your coffee or whatever you had. We take off and start the second video in a series of two on chapter 7 that deals with the key account management by summarizing and looking at 4 images that indicate what specific skills or some of the skills, as we refer to them as the anatomy of key account management. A key account management or manager should have some of the most important ones through those images we have identified again, and that is to ensure that they have a very good sight, vision in other words, to see through the business model, and with the anatomy of the sense of having a good nose, then obviously to smell the opportunities that are out there, to communicate properly and effectively, as well as obviously having a strong heart and sufficient stamina to ensure that we can continue and complete this marathon, because key account management is not about a quick sale like usually businesses do or traditionally have done business with many of their clients, but obviously a different approach, a more special and a more collaborative approach is required for those 20% of your accounts or clients who contribute to 80% of your business turnover. So definitely a marathon where we establish a relationship that we will have a look at now on how it goes through different stages and what the different relationships require, or what different levels the relationships are on through these different stages, as the relationship between you and your key customer grows and develop over time. As we've just said, the relationship development model between you and your key account goes through a whole process over a period of time. And if we look at the model, and on the next slide we'll have an image of what this model looks like, where we typically plot the process of a buyer-seller relationship based on the nature of the customer relationship, as well as the level of involvement with the customers, where your nature of relationship could be transactional to collaborative, and your level of involvement with your customers could be simple to complex. But let's look at the illustration itself. Model 9.3, the one on your screen there, shows how the relationship between buyer and seller develops over time, between the key buyer and seller, how that develops over time. Where initially in your pre-CAM or pre-key account management stage, it's very much still a prospecting period where specific accounts are identified, or accounts that has the potential to become key accounts are identified. So all the different possible candidates are identified and assessed, and that is to ensure that there's not an unnecessary wastage of resources. When it advances to the early CAM stage, we are now exploring the opportunities for closer collaboration between buyer and seller, and identifying motives and cultures that are similar. When it goes to the mid-cam stage, there is now a trust already that's been established, and it's an increased um, um, contact between the buyer and seller. When it becomes or advances and develops to the partnership cam level, it has now become clear that we, as pretty much are partners, as it suggests. There are strategic resources, sensitive information, and even joint problem solving that happens on or during this particular partnership CAM stage. It then can advance to a synergistic CAM stage as well, where we have definitely almost become part of one large entity. If um, if the relationship eventually cease to grow and all these neglect um, and or even maybe a breach in trust, then it can lead to an uncoupling, which can happen at any point after any of or in between any of the stages that we have identified in that relationship development model on the screen. When building relationships with key accounts, there are a few aspects that is required. One obviously is personal trust. You have to build a confidence between um, the buyer and the seller, and there must be a reassurance um, that you'll keep your promises, that there will be a swift reply, that um, there will be warnings if either one of us pick up any possible challenges. That is what sort of a mutual personal trust that is required, and is one of the building blocks of a good relationship with a key account. Technical support between the buyer and the seller is of even is of equal importance, where we know how um, on how to use products and increase productivity is very important. There's a lot of cooperation between the buyer and the seller here when it comes to specific research and development that happens, and even joint training that happens between the buyer and the seller. There's also resource support that is offered. If resources are shared, it makes it results in a reduction in financial burden that key accounts have to carry. It could be in the form of particular specific credit facilities, extended terms for payment, maybe an even more advantageous or lower interest loans that's offered between the two parties. A reliable service when it comes to the delivery, when there is a detection of, of, of problems that might have crept in, especially when almost a sort of a trust is starting to waver because the service that is offered is not of the same quality as it was initially in the relationship. Um, Again, emphasizing how important it is to ensure that there is proper trust between the parties, between the buyer and the seller, in a key account management relationship. But usually, a very solid relationship service relationship exists between the buyer and the seller. For instance, using, and we'll address this in a later chapter, the JIT system in place, the just-in-time for delivery. There's a reduction in defect productions. There's reliable delivery, and obviously great accuracy and a quickness in preparing quotes. We can also reduce the risk that might exist between, or that the buyer might feel is evident, and that is to reduce the uncertainty in the customer's mind by, for instance, providing samples, free demonstrations, and even give them trial periods of using a particular product or service, and then providing specific delivery guarantees. It is at this point also important to look at some key account do's and don'ts. You can read through it. It makes good reading, and it's a lot of things that we've covered already. But for instance, I do not ever agree to what can be delivered, or do not only ever agree to what can be delivered. Do resolve issues very quickly. Confirm your agreement in writing. Make sure that you understand the key account's decision making. Do ask questions. Do treat the customers as experts, to encourage them to reveal information, and definitely don't let small issues spoil the relationship, or expect to win on every occasion. It must be a mutually beneficial relationship. Don't be afraid to say no when the circumstances demand it, and definitely don't deceive by saying that you know if you don't know. If you don't know, say no. Say that you don't know, and then resolve the problem together. Read through that particular table. It's interesting reading, and it's definitely very helpful to ensure that you have a very good relationship between seller and your key account. We are now nearing the end of this chapter, and we will be looking at information and planning systems for key accounts. The benefits, obviously, of planning, we all know, is very important. As I said, it's a joint venture between you and the key account. So you're looking for specific planning benefits, and that is the consistency, because your focal point is the decisions and the actions of both the parties. And you also, good planning allows you to monitor the impact of change, which is obviously a given, because that is how businesses grow and excel. And then also it helps you to allocate and meet the challenges of the resources which you have available, which is usually obviously which is important to use to its maximum, because we know that there's an ever-growing need, but that the resources to address those needs are very limited often, and therefore if we can allocate them better, because we're working jointly with our key, or very closely with our key account or accounts, it definitely would help, and planning properly is definitely results in better resource allocation. It also can give you a competitive advantage, because you are better at servicing the account, and also and this also includes account audits. Usually an account audit is, or the outcome of an account audit is a SWOT analysis, looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of both the parties. and then obviously your account plan that specifically deals with objectives, strategies, and controls in place. Um, in other words, is providing you building blocks for a good relationship. Information systems for key accounts is also important. Again, it provides you with joint resources and can give you a competitive advantage if the system that you have in place, or your information system that you have in place, is very efficient in collecting, storing, and disseminating essential account data. That includes hard and soft data. And we'll be looking at a diagram on the next slide that will specifically differentiate between what hard and soft data and what specific data specifically is managed by such an information system. Hard data refer to specifically addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, um, the sales volumes, the profits, operating ratios, where your soft data refer to specifically perceptions, attitudes, your buying processes, your problems and your threats, your opportunities, your environmental changes. And then there are obviously specific data as well that would include, among other things, detail of the discounts, your allowances, your competitors' products, price levels, sales levels, contract expiry dates, but to name a few. But that diagram you'll find in your chapter 9, I think it's table 9.5. In summary and conclusion of this chapter, let's highlight 6 key success factors for key account management. Firstly, the suitability of the key account manager. That refers to specifically the integrity, the interpersonal skills, and the personality and culture of a key account. Where secondly, the in-depth knowledge and understanding of your key account customers' business will help with the anticipation of future needs. Thirdly, the commitment to the partnership. The commitment to the partnership is important because it will provide you with an indication of the time and resources that is necessary to build a relationship, and where you need to maybe train certain individuals to ensure that they share the same philosophy. Fourthly, you're looking at delivery or delivering specific value, and that is understanding the needs of the customer by using cross-functional teams. Fifthly, obviously, there's must be trust for any key account management relationship to be successful, because confidential information is shared, and therefore there has to be complete trust between the two parties. And finally, a proper implementation of and understanding of the key account management concept is important. And that is important to understand that we are not dealing here with a traditional sales relationship where you are just trying to hit the numbers. You are trying to establish a very, very valued relationship with a key customer that's going to not just provide you with high volumes of business, but actually can offer you with some services that you might need to, or might in future had to have developed yourself at great cost, which they can now provide as a key customer, but also importantly it increases the reputation of your business, to have certain specific key clients, apart from just improving your bottom line, in other words, your profit margins. It is not an easy job to be a key account manager. I think this chapter have identified that it is not necessarily a job that is reserved as a promotion for the best salesperson in your business. There are definitely specific skills that's required, which we have highlighted in this chapter, and that you can revisit when you watch this, or listen to this pre-recording again. Let's just finish this chapter by again emphasizing how difficult it is to be a key accounts manager. I think that says it all. Thank you very much. I hope to see each other very soon, and then we will continue with chapter 10. Thank you.